Good evening, Mr. Galati, and how are you?
Oh, I'm well. I'm well. Despite how dark everything is in the world, I'm very well.
It's been a minute. Well, I say a minute. 2 weeks since we've had you on.
That's
What's
right.
new in your life? What's new in your life, Eric?
In
Any
my
new
life,
findings? Any new research?
not yet. I've got a lot that is planned. I've been doing research on North Dakota, which I cannot speak of. And, I could give some tidbits for people to grasp at if
Please do.
Okay, but I can't reveal my sources. It's more than one. That one source. Now, these are not just people who insist on wanting to be correct. That one source told me that they knew that David Berkowitz had traveled to North Dakota and had seen John Carr there. Hello, Steve. And Steve Sipos, lovely to see you.
Hi, Steve. Hi, Stuart. Hi, Mobrat Hunter. Go on, Eric.
And the other source, the other research I did, is that a Stephen Clark in the New York Daily newspaper for the city of Yonkers, Herald
Statesman,
wrote in 1979, I believe. I don't have the date right now here. It was or 77. He wrote that that the body of John Carr was discovered a day later. You had even mentioned that.
yeah,
And I confirmed that the story that Geetson told Joshua Zeman, which is only a snippet, or it might have been even from an archive film. Geetson was called on to the military base of North Dakota at Minot to go directly to Linda O'Connor's address, not to search the base, directly to her address about a trespasser. And I found out that although Mezish, who was there years later as a graphic designer, she is correct about the strict security in entering. In those years of the 70s, any Tom, Dick, and Harry, any straggler, anybody from a local town could drive onto the base. The only maximum security was around the nuclear weapons. So that adds to the mystery if one believes, as you and I do, that John Carr was murdered. The other thing that I have information has come forth, this is going to blow some people's minds, and I can't reveal where it comes from, is that it is quite possible that if we can go to the Wendy Savino shooting, that Mr. Joseph Savino Jr. was not really guilty of trafficking 3 silencer pistols and a machine gun, but that he was set up by the Federal Bureau of Investigation and they placed those guns in his truck. So that's food for thought for people out there. I'm not looking for a gold star, but research it. Go further and research these things, because
this case is never ending, Eric. There's always new information coming out, whether it's directly or indirectly involved.
That's right. That's right. It's all there. It's all there. And it's in fact, I asked a source, was Mr. Savino Jr. set up? Now, what made me think that is that he met his wife in Belgium, not England. And when Mr. Savino Jr. met his wife in Belgium, he was working for Grumman Aircraft, a very important, one of the foremost Western world's aircraft people for scientific technology with aircraft and everything else. And it's tied to the government. You have to get clearance even from the Central Intelligence Agency, let alone the Federal Bureau of Investigation. And there was no way that he could be representing Grumman Aircraft as an insurance man in Europe without having been vetted. So there's a lot of intrigue there. And it could be that the man, I said to myself, gee, I wonder if he was set up, and I was speaking to a source or two, and one was so definitive. The Federal Bureau of Investigation set up Savino Jr. by putting the arms in his truck. So that's something for people to investigate.
Well, as you know, we've been dipping in and out of D channel for a few months, haven't we?
Oh, yes, yes.
It is the subject of today's live stream, because a very, very, very nice researcher who will remain nameless provided us with, well, as far as I know, is some never before seen letters between David and Dee, a very important document, which I will show. Not important in that regards, but you know.
Yeah, well, the interesting thing is that there must be a library archive, I'm speaking figuratively, of their epistolary between David Berkowitz and Dee Channel. There must be people out there listening in who might have known this and it was never revealed, or maybe they didn't know it. But a number of even serious researchers have spoken to me and have said they did not know, as was revealed to me, that the David Berkowitz Dee Channel correspondence began 2 weeks in August of 1977 after he was arrested. So he's arrested on August 10th. So 2 weeks, let's say August 24th, if we want to be exact, that's when the correspondence began. And it lasted until the early 1990s.
Yes, well, I have got a letter which I will post. It's dated 14th of August 1979. And David says, "Dear Dee, this is for your birthday and our anniversary, our first meeting. Wasn't it sometime in August of 77? So that confirms what you just said.
That's
they
right.
Were in correspondence very early on.
Yeah, and this also makes one wonder how close we might be with our, shall I say, supposition, more than a conjecture, that when Mr. Maury Terry said he cannot reveal to the Queens County District Attorney Office Assistant District Attorney Herbert Leifer who his source is, which is what journalists are like. I can't reveal my sources about Geets and Savino Jr., that it could be Dee Channel who was...
definitely 100% Dee Channel was.
And when we think of the amount of letters they wrote to each other, the quantity, it makes you go back to what has always been known and say, my God, where are these missing links?
Well, it's very similar to the relationship David had with Maury Terry, because there seemed to be quite a substantial gap in between their correspondence. The same with Dee Channel. It kind of tailed off in the 80s, early 1980, and then picked up back again in the 90s.
That's right.
And then it fell apart again.
Yeah. I will say this. You're probably right, but we could say we believe it tailed off in the 1980s. Who knows what is where and to be found.
Yeah, what we haven't seen.
Yeah. But these Dee Channel letters are very, very, very interesting. I think they came from a source where there might have even been this researcher might even have found something that had to do with correspondence with Maury Terry, and we don't even know what else was corresponded with between David Berkowitz and Maury Terry. You know, did we ever know of a correspondence between Berkowitz and brother John Paul Raineri? I didn't. Did you? Were you aware of it?
I've only seen that one letter that was
the one
conveniently written a week after Inside Edition was released. Whether there's anything to do with that or not, I mean.
That's the letter where he said, Maury said, I can now write to you. Just what that means, well, we're never going to know, because these people are dead, and the only one who would be able to tell us is Berkowitz himself. But it's I think this is what keeps one hanging on to this case. There are so many gaps, so much documentation that's missing and probably exists elsewhere. I know D Channel needed money. She sold some of the initial letters. I do not care for that. I don't care for selling crime, for selling what is basically blood money, you know. And now there's a question: is she alive or dead? I thought she was deceased.
Well, I went on newspapers.com seeing if I could find anything, and there's really not a lot on D Channel on newspapers.com, but I did find this. Can you see the screen okay?
Yeah, Sam letters show many sides.
So this dated June 12th, 1978. And it says, Sam letters show many sides. New York Associated Press. David R. Berkowitz writes of himself, son of Sam, a destructive monster, a modern-day Judas, a child of Satan, a Christian. In 8 letters written over the past 6 months, the admitted 6-time killer sometimes sees himself as a born-again Christian, comforted by the Bible, but the letters, often ungrammatical, also show him lapsing into depression and irrationality and threatening suicide. I am really a destructive monster who is unfit to live on this planet and breathe God's air. I don't intend to stay much longer. Berkowitz wrote a week before trying to jump from a courthouse window. The letters were obtained by the Associated Press from D Channel, a West Coast woman who calls herself a Christian counselor specializing in demonology, with agreement not to reveal her whereabouts. The real sickos are still out of prison, she said. The confessed killer was due to appear in court again today for possible sentencing in an 8-year random shootings over a year in which he killed 6 young persons and wounded 7 others in the Bronx, Brooklyn, and Queens. The former postal clerk who says demons commanded him faces up to 200 years in prison but would be eligible for parole after 30 years. 3 weeks ago, Berkowitz forced postponement of his sentencing by 2 violent outbursts, including the suicide try. His bizarre behavior prompted the court to order a new psychiatric evaluation to determine his competence for sentencing. 2 previous studies found him fit to stand trial. Berkowitz pleaded guilty on May 8th, a week before his last letter to Miss Channel. He had written her on January 16th. God has put it in my heart to plead guilty, so don't be surprised when you read about it in the papers. Don't worry, it's all in the name of Jesus. The letters to Miss Channel reveal a complex David Berkowitz. In mid-January, he said he had tearfully repented of my deeds and I've been living gloriously for the Lord Jesus. In fact, I've been doing so good that I've been singing and dancing in my cell. Jesus and I are back together again, and it's been so good. 2 months later, however, he wrote, I don't see how I could ever be forgiven by Christ, and I don't know what I would say to him when I see him. I have shut myself off from God and cast 6 souls into hell and destroyed the lives of others. No, I'm no child of God. Rather, I'm a child of Satan. I'm not Christian at all. I am a cursed person beyond hope. Autograph expert Charles Hamilton, who had previously sold some of Berkowitz's letters, said he had no doubt the material is genuine.
Another man who sold letters. Another example of blood money.
But you can see even early on, David is toying with Christianity, even way back then.
He's ambiguous, though. He says, God told me to plead guilty. Then he says, but I'm a child of Satan. He talks about dancing joyfully with Christ, but he's a child of Satan. This is typical. This is the same ping pong back and forth behavior that we get with his story of acting alone, and then I'm with others, I'm alone, I'm with others, I'm alone. Hi, Leash.
ping pong.
Yeah, the ping pong mentality, and it's all over. He's all over the place, and in a way, you could almost say that it is psycho-emotionally as sadistic as taking the lives of those innocent. It's one who's playing with people, very similar, but very, very, very different. I don't know if we could say that Berkowitz was ever programmed or studied these things, but similar, but very different from Charles Manson. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. You know, riddles here, a riddle there. I embrace you, then I shove you away.
Mind games, Eric.
Mm-mm-mm.
Many people.
I wish we could have. I wish we could have interviewed.
Hi, Patrick. You wish what, Eric?
I wish we could have interviewed D Channel. That's the one I would have loved to have interviewed. And so we also don't know how much. Let me just say this of Maury Terry, stored away with Ed Sanders.
Yeah. Well,
Ed Sanders
we were kindly given these by, as I said earlier, an unnamed researcher who is very, very good at finding obscure, I don't know, articles, letters, whatever you want to call it.
Incredible. This researcher is as fine as the conspiracy archive lady who's been on the show.
Well,
incredible what these people can find as far as documentation. I'm pretty good at interviewing people and getting them to speak, honestly. But these people are very, very good at getting documentation, and it's incredible. It's never ending.
Well, Eric, I don't think, as far as I know, I don't think anybody's ever seen what we're going to show. And even if they have, I really don't care because they're not us, right? So
that's right, because we present it differently.
And but also, I don't pay attention to a lot of the other, you know.
Yeah, but there are people who might. Well, there's definitely one person I know who knows the source of from whence the letters come from, but only this researcher is the one I know who obtained these letters, obtained them. And it's, to my knowledge, even if they've been known, fine, but they're not known. They're not known at all. I've never known them on anybody else's show. And if they have had them on their show, please let us know where and when. I'd be interested. So
can you see it okay, Eric?
Can you make it a bit larger?
I cannot. That's the biggest it'll go.
Okay, it's okay. It's
I'm going to read it anyway. So
can you read it? Because with me, it's a bit pale. But go ahead.
So that's just the color of the letters. So you see at the address at the top, D Channel 3139 East Sahara Avenue, number 153, Las Vegas, Nevada, 89104. And the date is May 8th, 1980.
Yeah. Now let me just say, D Channel was itinerant. It might have been with her husband, Bobby, who spelt Bobby with an I-E, not a Y. Bobby, that's usually a woman's spelling, but down south, or who knows how people spell it up in the areas, little provincial areas of Oregon. She was in Oregon, then California, Idaho, Nevada, and maybe someplace else before the final country of Louisiana in its capital. But here she is in Nevada, and I think this is where most of the letters to Berkowitz were written from, right?
Yep.
Okay, go ahead. Let's please read it.
So, dear D, today I took my typewriter out to the kitchen where I am typing this letter to you now. My cell, just like a tiny apartment, has been giving me a cramped feeling lately. I just haven't been able to relax and unwind in it. So I've chosen to type out here in a back room. I know that you don't care for this Armstrong fella. Neither do I. Still, his Plain Truth magazine does have some good and relevant articles. The one I've enclosed about the movement to destroy the family. I like that. I liked what that writer said. You know, it really is only a matter of time before the lifestyle that was portrayed in George Orwell's 1984 comes out.
That's interesting. He's talking about something happening. We're right within the belly of the beast that began in 1968. It's continuing to 1980. The counterculture, the total destruction, deracination of the family. This Armstrong, that would be interesting. We don't have his full name yet, do we?
No.
Uh-huh. Go ahead. And no mention of the magazine, the name of the magazine. That's interesting.
Human beings living in big cities jammed up like bees. Our future will be awful, kid. If I luck out and get paroled in the year 2010, how will the world look? Did you ever wonder? 2000 is only 20 years away. Will we make it? While reading the New York Times, I came across this lengthy article about the timber industry in Nevada, Oregon, etc. Yes, it's just like you said, and I think that Bob will enjoy this article too. It seems to portray this troubled industry fairly accurately. We'll just have to hope for the best. Perhaps you and Bob, I take that is her husband, right, Bob?
Yeah, Bob for Bobby Chanel.
Perhaps you and Bob would fare better in Maine or Vermont. These states are beautiful wonders. And there is, as far as I know, a growing industry in them. They're increasing in population and standard of living is rising. I'd seriously look into a move to the East Coast. Go down. I haven't seen the items you mentioned in Newsweek yet. You say it deals with forensic psychiatry. Now let's see what they say. Was I considered sane or insane? Well, I'll find out when I get the article.
Now, notice though that it's bordered in red to stand out as a very important, salient.
Well, this is how we were sent them, and some of it's cut off at the bottom, and the rest is not there. But this is just what we were sent.
Yeah, no, but notice it's pointing something out very important.
Yeah. This was as it was in the magazine.
That's right. We didn't do it. We didn't do it. The researcher do that to the letter. The researcher found the letter like that. Go ahead.
You know, Dee, I cannot see how anyone in their right mind. Let me start again. You know, Dee, I cannot see how anyone in their right mind could, right at this moment, say that I am deranged. The evidence of my sanity, even at the height of my crimes, and it's crossed out, was overwhelming. For instance, my escapes from the crime scenes, every roadblock was avoided. Alternate streets were used. These were secondary roads which zigzagged every which way. I ran off quickly and then changed to a quick but natural pace when I neared people or neared my car. I aimed carefully, fully aware that I was about to take a life. Yes, if you look at it, you will see the work of a clear and careful thinker. One who was calculating, one who realized the consequences and sought until the end and means of escape. So despite all this, here are some idiots convinced that I am or was psychotic. And they are writing a book. How silly. Speaking of incompetence. So he must be talking about Klauser. Right now, I can admit my total guilt. I can accept it. Yes, the damage is irreversible, but I can accept this too. Yet fools, blind fools like Klausner cannot. They themselves, even though they haven't killed anyone, cannot even accept my guilt. Thus, they have chosen a story about a man who is mad, crazy, deranged, and insane. Goodness, how little they know, and that's where it cuts off, Eric.
Now, that's very interesting because it's what I call the ping pong effect with Berkowitz. Here he's saying I was sane, totally in my right mind, and yet there is from one day to the next when he will be behaving in a very deranged manner. It's just like what you read in that newspaper article. he is with Christ our Lord, but then he says, I am a child of Satan, or similar words. It's quite interesting. And I believe he's writing this because he's focusing, as you said, on Lawrence Klausner, who's going to be coming out with a book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, interesting.
So that's the first one we got, Eric.
Mm-hmm.
Bear with me, I'm still getting the grips. So, for a bit of context, okay, this next it's a deposition. D channels writing to this judge.
Mm-hmm.
David essentially wants control over his affairs, doesn't he? He wants to push Johnson out the way. He thinks he's sane and capable of looking after his own affairs. And, you know.
Yeah, what it is that Doris Johnson was appointed as his conservator.
Yeah, in 1978 after his arrest.
Right, yes. And being appointed as his conservator, she therefore legally had the right to do what she wanted with his personal property, his story, and so forth. And I believe she had correspondence with Klausner, and she was assisting Klausner in giving him information that he could use for his book. And suddenly, at a certain point, he no longer wants Doris Johnson, and he turns to D Channel to please write a deposition to the judge. I think his name is Lodato, Lodato,
yep,
which means praised in Italian, to Judge Lodato to make an appeal that her fellow correspondent, David Berkowitz, is sane. He's not insane. He can take care of his own affairs. That way he can put a stop to Klausner's book, hopefully. That's the book also that was to be published by McGraw-Hill in Manhattan.
Well, yes, and apparently when this publishing deal was coming about, it was proposed that David was essentially going to get $75,000 from the advance for this book.
Yeah, in fact, he even spoke about, I don't remember, did he speak about making money from it in the very beginning?
Well, this is how the Son of Sam law came around, because they were like, yo, you're a criminal. Ain't no way you're going to be getting no money.
Mm-hmm. And you know, now that I start to wonder, because I remember there was talk about publication of books and money with his cousin, Susan Wishingrad Sugar, or Susan Sugar Wishingrad, whichever way you look at it. Who knows if now he changed his mind about wanting to have control of his own affairs, because he would not be getting any money from the Klausner book.
Well, it says here on the internet, book deal with Lawrence Klausner. In the late 70s, Johnson negotiated a deal with author Lawrence Klausner and publisher McGraw-Hill to write a book about Berkowitz. Proposed advance was $250,000. The payment structure was $125,000 on signing, $62,000 later payments. Distribution of the advance reportedly looked like $150,000 for Lawrence Klausner alone. 10% literary agent. $75,000 to Johnson as a conservator to cover Berkowitz's legal fees. The book eventually became Son of Sam, the 44 caliber killer. It was based heavily on Berkowitz's taped interviews, diaries, and official documents. It says why it was controversial. The proposed legal deal triggered public outrage because many people believed the serial killer should never profit from his crimes. Victims' families were demanding compensation. Media companies were offering huge money for the story. The controversy helped fuel the creation of the Son of Sam laws. So, yeah, had they not done this, perhaps the Son of Sam laws would never have been a thing, Eric.
Yeah. And if the Son of Sam law never had been passed, maybe Berkowitz would have gone along with the book. We don't know. But
is the deposition.
Those fees at that time were extraordinary. That was a lot to get at that time, $250,000.
So, did David say to Dee, I need your help. I need you to help convince the judge that I'm sane and I can handle my own affairs? And
he obviously did, because she goes forward to write
with this deposition.
Yeah, to write a deposition for him to convince the judge to change that he is sane and has control of his faculties. But something takes place as you read this letter. It will be revealed that D. Channel, though, goes over the history of his irrationality and insane acts, which really, when you're writing to a judge like that, you should not be writing these things. You should just be succinct and say, I hereby testify that the person I am in correspondence with, Mr. David Richard Berkowitz, is totally in control of his mental faculties. He has no need for a conservator. But instead, she starts out with a narrative of what his acts were, which goes against him, really. And I think psychologically, the reason why she's writing that is because in past letters, he has been quite brutal.
Well, we'll get to those.
Yeah, but he's been brutal and vulgar with her.
Well, we'll get to those.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to point out is psychologically, in her mind, it's almost as if she's also having a catharsis to try and get it out of her from what she surprisingly received from him.
Very strange relationship going on between these two.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
So this is a deposition she didn't send to the judge, but she sent to David, as we'll later see.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I'm going to try my best to read this. To the Honorable Judge Dominic V. Lodato. Did I say that right, Eric?
Yeah, Lodato. It means praised. Go ahead.
Your Honor, it has been brought to my attention by David R. Berkowitz, a.k.a. the son of Sam, that his attorney, Seth Rubenstein, and his keeper, Mrs. Doris Johnson, have filed a legal rebuttal with you, carelessly using letters passed from me to them regarding David's mental health and using quotes from these highly personal letters in an out of context manner to make me appear to agree with their current rebuttal. Let me just go down.
That's probably one of the letters that we wrote where he was happy she was brutally treated by a priest.
These tactics by these supposed professionals should of itself give you second thoughts as to their true concern for David's welfare or that of their future income, soaking up royalties from a book and TV and movie spin-offs of some sane. I don't know what that says. David tells me that he has seen a gallery of the clouds in the book and that it is a farce, pure science fiction which will inflame public opinion and perhaps even get him killed in Attica. Worse, the book will endanger the lives of his entire family. Now, see, I wonder if that's like where he got this idea to give to Maury, you know?
What?
My family's in danger. If I talk...
Well, that is something that every now and then he continues to put out, even just a few years ago.
Yes.
As Frank De Gennaro told me, that he told the behaviorist psychologist and Christian pastor, Dr. Michael Caparelli, that he did all the murders on his own because he didn't want to say he was with others because he was concerned about his family and his nieces. And when Mr. De Gennaro told me that, I just listened to what he told me in our phone conversation. And I said to myself, but wait, his nieces are not small anymore. Does this mean there's something pro-generational that would say, okay, we're going to go after your nieces? It doesn't add up because he's already talked openly, even on television with Maury Terry and others.
Yeah, and none of his family, as far as I know, have ever been harmed.
No.
He states that the book is based on gross lies, assumptions, and slander beyond belief, and yet it is being passed off as a documentary. I believe him. I've seen some material from the book, and it stinks, to be quite frank with you. She's not happy with it, is she?
No.
Have
you read the book?
I have got it, yeah.
And what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's very, very good. Okay. And you have to remember, Eric, Klausner had access to stuff that a lot of us will probably never see.
Well, he should allow us to see it. That's the one thing that these people should do. Not because, but everybody wants their little treasure. Oh, it's my treasure, it's my jewel. And then when they die, it's thrown away. Go ahead.
Rubenstein and Johnson contracted for this book in order to collect royalties from it, and future TV and movie spin-offs are the same. The more bizarre, untrue, and sensational it could be made, the more public preoccupation with it. This was no doubt there, and the author Klausner's reasoning. Since my past quotes, observations I once held are being used against David by these people, unless my wish is in your court, sir, I feel I have a right to speak out in defense of my past letters, etc.
Now, she says, I once held. She says, since my past quotes, observations I once held, she doesn't hold something anymore, are being used against David. So therefore, there's a shift this is where we want all the letters, which we might never get. What is it that she once held? What is it that she once held and now no longer holds? It's in block capitals there. That's interesting. Go ahead.
Well, this next paragraph's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I did feel at one time that David was seriously mentally ill. Anyone with an ounce of sense could easily see that a person who could blow people apart in parked cars, leave notes like David did at the scenes, set people's doorsteps on fire. So here she is basically going with everything that we know. She's not denying that he didn't act alone.
Yeah, and this is the failure, objectively speaking, from a jurisprudential point of view, of this deposition. She shouldn't be writing that. So it's just aiding and abetting everyone around what would be the publication of the Klausner book.
Yeah, she doesn't seem to be helping the cause out very much here, does she?
No, but I also think psychologically she's writing that because she's trying to say, okay, I'm intimate with him. I can't give up writing with him. We have become friends. He trusts me. I trust him. But he has written brutally and vulgarly to her in the past.
Sprinkled with live ammo, shoot helpless dogs, write crank notes to neighbors. She's basically just throwing him under the bus here, isn't she?
Yeah.
Not to mention the insane scribblings on his apartment walls. Hang on, I thought he didn't do those. Was totally mentally deranged at the time of these deeds.
Did she believe at one time he did not do that?
No, I'm just saying that's, obviously you don't think he did, do you?
I don't know.
You and others.
No, I don't know. I have no decision. I could see him doing it. If somebody else did it, I don't know. No. I'm not definitive on that. I'm not sitting on the fence. I don't know. For now, I have to say he did the scribblings.
And that's fair enough.
There's not enough forensics to say he did or didn't. So I have to go along right now with the narrative that he did the writings on the wall for now. I've never denied it, nor have I ever.
You have to do is compare the handwriting.
See, I would say it was somebody else if I knew who the somebody else might be.
Well, unless they've got the exact same handwriting style as David.
Mm-hmm.
My distaste of the handling of David's case has always been the way he was railroaded into prison for obviously being seriously mentally ill for a very long period of time.
Well, he wasn't railroaded into prison. He would have gone to prison whether he was considered mentally ill or not.
Mental illness can be caused by reactions to certain drugs, chemicals, diet, hormonal imbalances in the body, suppressed anger, suppressed sexual desires, childhood upbringing, environment, brain damage, and God only knows what else man has not even discovered as yet.
Well, her deposition falls flat on its face now because she is saying he was mentally ill and this is what could have been causing it. And really, I mean, any judge reading this is not going to end up saying, well, he was mentally ill then, but now he's all right because look what caused it, a bad diet, drugs, or whatever. It doesn't hold a bag of water. Go ahead.
I have counseled David for 3 years by Daily Mail to date. In this period of time, I have watched him go from an irrational animal, a snapping madman, to a rational, reflective, loving, sensitive, intelligent human being. Take a case in point, the mad bomber of New York. Where is he today? Leading a quiet life in some small community in your area. Perhaps he is your neighbor. Perhaps he is a quiet little man you pass on the way to court today, with the cheerful smile that tips his hat to you as he bounces by. The point is, people who do the most bizarre things against society. I wouldn't call that bizarre, would you?
No, I don't think it's bizarre because bizarre isn't homicide. Bizarre isn't sexual abuse. Bizarre is not a bank robbery. Bizarre behavior is dressing up in a tuxedo and deciding to put on as a man, deciding to wear makeup and wear a cowboy hat. You know what I mean?
I wouldn't call that. I wouldn't call murder bizarre.
Yeah.
At one time or another can be cured. If diet, hormonal imbalances, brain tumors, environment, upbringing, chemical poisoning, or whatever made them sick in the first place is corrected. Let me just go down a little bit. Either through the miracles of modern medicine or the miracles of modern counseling or even a Christian conversion, perhaps these people often no longer present danger to themselves or society. I am not advocating here that David should be turned loose, but merely that after counseling him heavily and daily for 3 solid years, I feel that he has been what does that say? My freaking eyes. I feel that he has been exploited enough by greedy people who are more interested in making a fast buck off of him than helping him and seeing that he gets well.
No, she made a fast buck selling his letters.
Exactly.
And read the last paragraph. I just calculated something.
So it looks like she did, in fact, send this to the judge.
Yeah, and it says, what's the last
didn't
one?
have a choice. In my estimation, I feel that I know David more deeply than any other human being on the face of this earth today. David is now aware of what made him kill. He and I have worked these things out in letter after letter, reportedly over the years.
That is something that could be true of a working out, more sincere on her part than his. Sorry if I seem to be unfair, but she said on a daily basis for 3 years. Now, I'm sure it's not every single day, but you know what it would be toward if it was every day? Because it seems they had quite an enormous, it would be 1,095 letters, 3 years. You would be going towards the number of 1,095 letters in 3 years. So it seems that there were a couple of hundred from 1977 to 1980. Where are they?
Well, this is the last part of the deposition. Today, David's repressed anger and the paranoia that drove him to hear voices and kill are gone. David is sound. He has a long way to go in the area of forgiving, yet, and so do his confused and unforgiving victims and their survivors. But that will come with time. I feel that David has earned the right today to cease being exploited by greedy people. He is totally capable of running his own affairs from Attica. His latest letters to me here show a remarkable degree of self-perception, understanding, and a willingness to improve not only his mind, body, but spirit as well. I would be happy to discuss this with you by phone should you care to call me. Collect anytime. I would be happy to testify to these findings if asked to do so on David's behalf at some future date. As for statements I made concerning Dr. Abrahamson to Mrs. Johnson and Rubenstein, they still stand. I detest the man and his books, his arrogance, and his exploitation of David's case in book form and high-paid syndicated articles. I could make a fool out of him with David's 3 years of correspondence, but I won't. Let him continue his exploitation underpinned by him or me, his awed readers. What matters to me now, and what has always mattered, is that David today is lucid, reflective, capable, and of sound enough mind, due chiefly to my 3 years of patient Christian counseling, to run his own affairs free of people like Doris Johnson and Seth Rubenstein. Sincerely, D. Channel.
Well, it's so,
August 1980.
I think it is a sincere letter. It comes from the heart. It's a long one, thorough, not the type, though, that, you know, some of these judges read letters like that and they just put them in the junk pile. You know, they have no time. I can't, you know, nothing against her. But I applaud her for her opinion about Abrahamson. You know, and I would love to see what she wrote to David. She must have written to him what she thought of Abrahamson, and I'd love to see what he said to her about Abrahamson.
So this is what she wrote along with this deposition.
And this is the Judge Lodato also.
I'm not sure. It just says, David, I hope you aren't foolish enough, like in your days past, to refuse this letter. Attached to the deposition. Sorry, I couldn't find a notary. What does that say? A notary. But Rubenstein didn't have notarized out of context garbage that he threw at you in this judge's court either. So I hope it will suffice. I don't expect to hear from you again, and I don't think I really want to. My goal is finished. You are well enough to make it now without me. Let's let it stop there and quit while we're still ahead, okay? Good luck in court and for the remainder of your life, wherever that may be. I tried to help you the best I could. God knows what you put me through, and perhaps vice versa, in my over-eagerness to help and protect you over the last 3 years. If I made any mistakes, they were innocent ones, human ones, not out of greed for fame or a fast buck like all the others. Please don't write any more, and no threats or magic. Hang on, let me read that again. Please don't write any more, and no threats or magic. I've suffered enough. This deposition should help. I hope so. After all, if those two crumbs used my personal observations publicly without my permission, I have a right to defend what they used with the same judge. I will gladly testify or talk with the judge if he wishes to confirm that I was indeed the writer of this deposition. Anytime. Bye till Judgment Day, when all men's true intentions will be fully made known. D.
That's a very, very, I think it's a very sincere letter, because I could see from what you and I have read before how she allowed her compassion, her emotions to continue writing to him, but he would be abusive. He'd slap her around when he, and then she said threats of magic. Very eerie, very cryptic.
So, this is David's reply.
What do you make of it? What did you make of that letter by her?
I think she's had enough of him.
Yeah, yeah. Now, this is August 26th,
1980.
1980.
So 3 days after Dee's letter.
Uh-huh.
Dear Dee, I received this letter from you over the weekend. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to reject it because it's useless and hurtful. I can see now that our friendship was destined to end long ago. I see in you a tremendous sadistic desire to hurt men in general. Your letter here hurt a lot because you, being a naive person, tried to make me look quite sick. For example, you say that I don't need a conservator, yet then say anyone with an ounce of sense could easily see that a person who could blow people apart in parked cars, leave notes like David did at the scenes, set people's doorways on fire, sprinkled with lime ammo, shoot helpless dogs, was totally mentally deranged at the time of these deeds. Well, Dee, you've clearly shown your ignorance here. This is the same view that the unintelligent people of the world made. It shows a clear lack of knowledge about the psyche. You also mentioned things about diet, brain tumors, etc. Surely this will send any judge off the John laughing. No, I'm sorry to say that you're way off base. You say that you want to help me, but you can only, because of your underlying hatred for men in general, hurt me in the long run. Sorry, you're not a professional, are inexperienced in the field of human behavior, and lack a great understanding of the human mind. If you wanted to do a nice, meaningful letter, then you should have omitted most of your theorizing. Also, you didn't state the amount of schooling you had. I don't believe it was very much. Yours, David.
Well, on the one hand, there's a logic there because, as I said, she wrote too much about his past, and that is not what the object of the letter should have been. It's not what the object of the letter should have been. But at the same time, it's almost as if there's a consciousness coming out of her subconscious where she has a great deal of insight about him and his derangement and his sadism, his criminal mind, where she could not help but be honest about it. But it was not the place to write it. But if he's so sure as to what she is, and he says that she hates men and she doesn't have he already knows that she doesn't have some type of academic educational degree or past, why did he choose her to write the letter?
It backfired.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, chat, I'm not ignoring you. As usual, I'm in another screen and I haven't seen what's been going on. I'm not ignoring you.
Who said that?
No, I'm just saying, if people think I'm ignoring them, I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
Patrick Thomas said, and she didn't mention his army service and honorable discharge, or his police work, or his good record at the post office. She definitely focuses on his crimes.
Well, Patrick, that is before. Well, she knew what she was doing. I don't think she was doing it deliberately, Patrick, because if you read other letters that he's written to her, and I will use a different adjective because of what people might want to do to the show, he applauds how she was brutalized by a priest. And then in another letter that we read, he's very happy He tells her that he'd like to grab her by her hair and rip it down.
Hang on, Eric, don't give it away. We got that one to go through.
Oh, I thought we read that.
No, we haven't got to that one yet.
Patrick, your point. I'm not discarding you, Patrick, but the military service, the police auxiliary work, that's before the criminality, Patrick. You know, we all came out pure from our mother's wombs, but that's not the future of our lives.
Right. So this is the letter you're talking about, Eric.
I thought
so we're going to go back a few months, right? And you can see that, you know, tensions were pretty high between David and Dee, judging by this letter here. Okay. Dear Dee, I have your letters of 6/16 and 6/17, which consist of analyzing Collins, and numerous photocopies were attached to both letters. These were photocopies of the Michigan murder book. All right. Right. Just be prepared for this, guys, because this is, I don't think anyone's ever seen this.
Wait, those letters he's referring to, he's now writing respectively 4 and 3 days after receiving them. It's June 20th.
All right. Okay. Prepare yourselves. Well, I take it you want my comments and opinions. Fine. I'll be perfectly honest with you. I'll also be blunt. First, if it were possible, I would go over to your little metal trailer and knock on the door. Then when you open it, I'll enter and stand directly in front of you. Next, I will then quickly reach around you and grab the hair on the back of your head. I'll then push you to the floor. Then I'll force you to bend over on your knees and face away from me. Now I will pull. Oh, God, I can't even read this. Now I will pull them. I'm trying not to laugh, Eric. Hang on. Now I will then pull down your pants and expose your buttocks. I will then take off my belt and begin to smack your butt good until it turns beet red and you begin to scream. Finally, holding your hair and spanking you at the same time, I will then proceed to force you to move forward on your hands and knees, moving all about your neighborhood for all to see.
How Christ-like, huh? How Christ-like, right? May I read the last two paragraphs?
Go for it.
But, my lovely Dizzy, this punishment will not be without good cause. After all, I feel you deserve it for being such a dummy. I believe you had it coming to you. Why? Because after reading what you wrote here in your letters, I feel that you have committed a grievous transgression against society. You become a housewife and now a switchboard operator. To me, this is the greatest crime of all. Absolutely bonkers.
I couldn't believe it when I first saw this.
Absolutely bonkers.
Patrick Thomas says this is cybersex before they had the internet. See, Patrick, yeah, this is nuts. I've never seen. I mean, some of those Abrahamson letters are pretty saucy, but this guy is like directly telling somebody that's been helping him. He wants to do unmentionables. So I wonder what Dee's reply was, Eric.
I know. And then maybe she wrote to him saying she has a job as a switchboard operator. It's this all goes together with his dislike for women. It's about the sickest. It goes with the sick revelation that he tells the Dr. Abrahamson of how much he loves women, but he has fantasized about, as we've spoken before, going into a graveyard, digging up the bodies of young women who died, opening the coffins, and just ripping the cadavers to pieces. I understand why you were laughing. It's not that you thought it was funny. It's nerves.
It's disturbing. Yeah.
It's very disturbing. It's very disturbing. She seems that she wanted to break away from him, but yet she would go back, who knows for what reason, because she did have an interest in crime, because he's not the first person that she wrote to. And I forgot who it is she wrote to from Oregon to California. I don't know what case it was. I don't believe it was Manson. But she was one who did write letters investigating, as this Christian counselor, the criminal mind.
So she was doing the rounds, Eric.
Yeah.
I wonder what made them get back in touch with each other, because if I was Dee and I'd gotten a letter like this from David, I don't think I would want anything else to do with him.
No, I mean, well, I don't think that even before this letter in 1980, she should have had anything to do with him. She opened up her heart about suffering at the hands of the brutality of a priest, and he said you deserved it. And I'm not going to explicate. We've already expounded upon it. We've said it. We've explicated. We've been outward about what was in that letter that he wrote to her, that she deserved to suffer. You know, it goes back also to the 1980 letter that he wrote to Dr. Abrahamson about saying, except for you, Dr. Abrahamson, everybody is my puppets. They're all my puppets. And then he tries to make himself out to be sane by saying how much he imagined to put a niece on each leg. They were little girls, and say, hey, I'm the son of Sam, and this is what I did. You know,
he likes to play games with people, Eric.
Oh yeah, yeah, very much. Not like well, different from Charles Manson. Very different, but there is a similarity there. There's a similarity there. I don't see David Berkowitz as being like a Ted Bundy, who I think you've studied a bit Bundy. I haven't. Didn't he help discover some murderers?
No, he didn't discover anything.
No, he didn't help them out in
trade. Well, he was trying to help them with the Green River Killer, but nothing he ever told them ever came to anything. So, you know, Bundy was very much an attention seeker, just like David. Probably more so than David.
Well,
I mean, a lot of people like to say that David Berkowitz is a narcissist. I don't know if I'd call David a narcissist, but he's definitely got a personality disorder.
Oh, it's definitely there. It's definitely there. And maybe D Channel was a woman all heart. She had a big heart. She wanted to leave off well. You know, some of these people, I'm not being sarcastic, who are Christian counselors or even mental health people. There it is. Dee wrote to the Hearst family trying to help Patty Hearst in her trial. Thank you, Paul Hart.
Oh, tell me more.
She wrote to the Hearst family. That's who she, and that was from Oregon that he wrote to her, right, Paul?
That's I don't know a lot about Patty Hearst, Eric. I'm not going to lie.
Oh, God, that's a big intelligence operation. That's a big intelligence operation. She used to enter the jail to have a sexual affair with DeFries, who would later be the head of the intelligence-created Symbionese Liberation Army, which supposedly kidnapped her. But when he was but when she was in jail, when he was in jail, she used to enter supposedly with the identification of a girlfriend, and they would have conjugation together. Oh, please, believe me. Donald DeFries, yes, of the Symbionese Liberation Army. Thank you, Paul. You see, there's an interlinkage here. You know, Joshua Zeman wanted to send me a book of his, but I'll buy my own. And last evening, William Ramsey has a great interview with the man that wrote a book, Intelligence, supposedly. Thank you, Leash. But the queen of true crime journalism, she doesn't want her name mentioned, just said to me the other evening, you've got to read Lieutenant Colonel and politologist Michelangelo Aquino's Mind Games. And I was told to do that a year ago by Paul Hart, not Paul Hart, Joshua Zeman. Because that's what we're at. We're with mind wars now. Mind wars. That's how they will attack you and I. They want to attack our minds, you see. They want to play with our minds. And people like David Berkowitz and Charles Manson and Patricia Hearst, they're all involved in this. And it's like a network. I'm not saying they know each other, but there are other forces behind this, you know. But there is something about David's calculation, his when D Channel in that first letter, Rena, she writes about how he was, or does he write to her that he was well calculated? He never ran. He slowed down. He knew just how to pace himself.
Yes.
I remember analyzing how he would go around, and it was like a military reconnaissance where he would go and sound out the areas perhaps that he would go to the next day or two to do the shootings, making sure that there wasn't too much proximity of other people around. There had
Scouting.
there had to be some space. I lost the word when I first spoke of it, and the queen of crime journalism said you wanted to say that reconnaissance. I'll send a letter by Patty's father. Randolph Hearst wrote to Dee, thanking her for help. Yes, you read that to me over the phone, Paul. Yes, now I remember. Yes, Mrs. Randolph Hearst wrote a letter to Dee. She actually wrote to D Channel. Oh no, it was Randolph Hearst, her father, who wrote to Dee, thanking for her help. D Channel made an appeal, right? She made an appeal, Paul, to get Patty off, or for there to be mercy for her.
I need to look into this Patty Hearst.
Oh yeah.
Did she end up sympathizing with the people that essentially took her? Is that right?
I don't know. I haven't gone deeply into it. I know that that's the first time I ever heard of people talking about somebody being hypnotized, complete mind control. But then when you learn, as I have, yes, a letter of appeal. But then when you learn, as I have, about her frequenting Donald DeFreeze in prison, them having a sexual love together in prison, you know. Yeah, Leash.
Stockholm syndrome. That's the word I was looking for. Thanks, Leash.
Right. Thank you, Leash. But that's what we've been led to believe. But Leash, history has proven that there was no Stockholm syndrome with Patricia Hearst. You know, even John Wayne went to testify in favor of the family. She joined them. You see, she actually joined. You're right, Paul. She joined the Symbionese Liberation Army and robbed a bank for them. They did it, and I think, Paul, they were allowed to rob the bank. The intelligence people knew they were going to rob that bank because I think there was another group of people who wanted to rob a bank, and they were suddenly caught. But when they went to rob the bank, the Symbionese Liberation Army, there was no problem. It's even as if there wasn't even a guard there, or the guard had a toy gun. You know, yeah, there it is. There it is. It's all, you know. Thank you, Paul.
Eric, do you think people like Berkowitz, Ted Bundy, Richard Ramirez, John Wayne Gacy, Jeffrey Dahmer, do you think they're born evil, or do you think things happen in life to make them the way they are?
Well, let's start out with people like you and I. I have known some very, very good people. One man recently died in England, Steve Wiley, who had become a very devoted to Christ our Lord and Our Lady, the Queen of Heaven, Blessed Virgin. But he, when he was younger, he took lysergic acid dithylamide, which is LSD, and he never took it again. But he told me and my wife and a lady who died soon after him, his friend Maureen Day, that he says, "Oh, LSD is wonderful. I mean, it opens the mind. You see beautiful colors and things." And he was a Yorkshireite, and yet he never murdered anybody. He never did perverse things. So let's take step one. Are they born like that? Okay. If they're born like that, then it's what an author, I think his name was Marshall, wrote in his novel, The Bad Seed. He actually believed that people, just as, let's say, you can be born with in a family with a history of heart disease or diabetes, right? Or poor eyesight, and so forth and so on. The whole point is, if you believe, as I do, that you do not want to separate mind and body, and I don't believe that we should. It's yes, I do believe people can be born to be psychopathic from a previous. William March was the author. He was the author. William March is the one who wrote The Bad Seed. He wrote psychological fiction. He's a highly dedicated United States Marine, and I do believe people can be born like that. Now, was Bundy born like that? Was
Gacy, Dharma, Ramirez, Ridgway?
I don't know if they were, but I do believe, this is my personal belief, one doesn't have to believe it. I do really believe that there is something
genetically wrong.
And I also
I
also believe in that there is something even of a diabolical possession. Yeah. Now Leash says, look at some of their childhood. It all has to do with the brain and the growing of the brain and the chemicals. That is also very true, Leash. It's also very true. But I also believe that there can be the diabolical at work, that if you behave in a certain way, if you have a certain traumatic experience, something evil can
trigger it.
Of course, I'm one who says no excuses to homicide or those works, even if you're clinically insane. If you really are guilty, the death penalty. I don't believe in keeping these people around.
I don't know if you've heard of
and let me just say one thing. As our culture and our world declines and declines and declines, as the Hindus call it, the Kali Yuga, the age of darkness, right? As it continues to decline, that which was abnormal before, I'm talking about the most heinous, corrupt, evil acts, are becoming something that people laugh at. People take, they want to be interested in them because it stimulates them. And as it becomes more and more normal like that, you are aiding and abetting a culture. And within that culture, there's a power structure. Look at what Conspiracy Archive discovered, and she spoke to it on one of our shows when she wrote, and I think she even spoke. We have her on film, on the video podcast. Elliot, let me see, Eli Shoma and Elliot Shapiro. I may have the names mixed up. They were trafficking. They were pederastic, not pedophilic, boys, little boys. And they went to jail. It was a 10-year-old boy that they harmed. And yet, a slap on the wrist and they're out. One of them lives in Israel, and the other one had a successful art antique shop, the Den of Iniquity. So that's the great danger, that even if somebody's not a bad seed, even if somebody hasn't had traumatic experiences, they're being led into these things. You okay, Rita?
You know, the reason I asked this is, you know, we know some people have had very, 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 very traumatic lives, and they don't end up being serial killers, or, you know, not even serial killers. I've been watching this channel on YouTube called Explore With Me, and it's pure body cam, police body cam footage of them going into people's houses. And I mean, so many people put so much, you know, weight into serial killers and how evil they are. But I'm talking about your neighbors. I'm talking about mothers. I'm talking about fathers. They're going into these people's houses, people you not even suspect, and they're finding deceased children, their own children. You're finding children living in roach-infested houses with no furniture and no clothes. Evil is amongst us, and they're not just serial killers, Eric.
No, you're finding people who keep relatives locked up. In Austria, a young girl for 18 years locked up in a small room by a man. There was a case in Tuscany in Italy, going back to the 30s. They discovered the woman in the 70s. It tears your heart to pieces. The two brothers, farming people in beautiful Tuscany, you know, it's ironic that they kept their sister chained up in a barn for 30 years. You know, and that's what makes me angry with God. Where are the miracles? There was a series called Born to Kill. Yes, I've heard the name. I never saw it. And of course, I'm not being explicit because we don't want to be censored on this show, but people know what we're speaking about, even worse. So I think.
Do you believe in karma, Eric?
Oh, sure. Even St. Thomas Aquinas, the angelic doctor and universal philosopher, spoke of karma. You know what karma is? As he put it in Latin, cause and effect. That's what it is.
The reason I asked this, I don't know if you've heard of this case in the UK. Back in the early 2000s, this character here, Ian Huntley. Did you hear about this, Eric?
Now, the early 2000s, refresh me. I might have still been living there.
Okay, so this is Ian Huntley pictured here. He killed two little girls, Holly Wells and Jessica Chapman. Okay, he was attacked in prison last week, and they turned his life support machine off. So some prisoners attacked him brutally, and he was essentially brain damaged, and they switched off his life support machine, and he's now dead. Do you consider that karma? Or if karma was real, Eric, why is David Berkowitz still alive?
What year was he arrested?
I think it was 2002.
I was still living there. Yeah, I remember. I remember Ian Huntley, and I remember
2002.
Yeah, well, look at the two little boys. Remember the riots in Merseyside in the Whirl at Liverpool? The little boy murdered by two other little boys. Remember that?
I do. I don't remember that. But my point is, Eric, if karma was real, why is David Berkowitz still alive?
Wait. Karma is not something like physics. It's not.
Would you consider this karma? Ian Huntley being killed by two prisoners because of what he did?
Well, we know that prisoners hate these type of people. They hate them. Jeffrey Dahmer.
These are the two little girls he killed.
Yeah, right. But the case in Merseyside in the Whirl at Liverpool were two boys their age attacking a younger little boy. And there was a Welsh lawyeress who lived in my apartment building, which in England we call block of flats. She was on the ground floor, and I'll read that later. I want to finish the story. She was a lawyeress assisting this case of that little boy and what the two little boys did to them. The ones who did it were about 8 and 9 years old, and they did it to a little 4 or 5-year-old boy. If you were to be told what they did to that little boy, you know, the English are very laid back. It takes a lot for them to riot. People were rioting in Liverpool. They went berserk over them. And what happened? They took these two little boys, put them away, and then they went in the army. They gave them new identities. And I think one of them has been brought up on crimes. And then there's also the other fact that, and this is what's shocking when you talk about a structure and system to this evil, that as the Queen of True Crime Journalism wrote in her book, God's Little Soldiers, the father was a murderer and an abuser. The daughter saw him murder another little boy. The military knew this. They didn't care because the father had a special gift, a special trait that the military needed. They don't care about these people. Richard Spatala, you know the name, or just read the files of Richard Spatala.
So if karma was real, Eric, why did these people seem to live long lives? I mean, why aren't they snuffed out?
Well, because the karma could be that they're not going to get away with it when they leave this earth.
Well, what karma do you think David has endured? He killed 6 people, Eric, and he's had heart surgery to save his life. Yet you have Ian Huntley over there has been bludgeoned to death. He's now gone.
Well, Jeffrey Dahmer.
2 little girls.
Jeffrey Dahmer.
Dahmer got bludgeoned to death.
You know. Now, Leash had said something about
he got executed.
Yeah. Well, you know, karma is not as scientific as if I press a button here on my printer, we know what's going to happen when I print. It's not like that. You know, we're dealing with something that is rather supernatural. It's ethereal. It's not. It's
the luck of the draw, then.
Well, if you want to put it metaphorically like that, yes. I mean, we all want to see these people justified. Look at the insanity here on Meadowmere Park. There was a car parked at the end of my driveway about 3 weeks ago. And then all of a sudden the doorbell rings. It's a detective and his assistant. And they say, do you mind if we're here? We want to park in your driveway. There was an attempted murder at the other end. This is a little hamlet. It's an islet, a small island. The only one lived on in Nassau County. And we're on Jamaica Bay. Across the way is Idlewild Airport. Well, now it's John Fitzgerald Kennedy. And a man with a crossbow tried to murder a young girl, ran all the way here into my big yard, which is dark. We don't have cameras, and threw the crossbow over the bay wall. Turned out a brother wanted to murder his sister. And if it had just been a bit from her, you know, from right to left, she would have been dead. And sooner or later, you learn that it was over an argument about the temperature in the house.
Wow.
You know,
something as trivial as that.
Yeah. I remember as a boy coming back from Shea Stadium, I saw the Mayor's Trophy game between the Mets and Yankees, and on the radio, the report was that, I don't mean to laugh, that 2 men went at it and stabbed each other, and one, I think, almost died or did die over the cutting in half of a steak. You know, there's all sorts of evil acts, insane acts that go on. But, you know, with David Berkowitz, I would never trust the guy. You know,
do you think he's sincere in his Christianity, Eric?
Oh, you're asking me to look into his soul.
What you know about David on this date in 2026. Do you believe David is true to his faith?
I want to say I don't know, because I don't want to be Luciferic, where like Lucifer, I think I'm as good as God and I'm omniscient. But I would have to say that there's something very troubled there. That's how I'd put it. The back and forth, back and forth.
Like there's a monkey on his back.
Yeah. I mean, come on. The fact is that the stories continue to go back and forth,
Yes.
back and forth, back and forth. You know, now he's back with demonic possession and that demons made me do it. Before there were no demons.
Yeah.
In fact, a new book has come out by the pastor, Don Dickerman. And I believe Mr. Berkowitz has written the foreword to it.
Yes, which we discovered several weeks ago, didn't we, Eric?
Yeah, he's written the foreword to it. He speaks of demonic possession with Dr. Caparelli.
Ginger Nichols said, I'd volunteer to be roommates with David. I'm so unafraid of him. I wonder if you'd have been saying that 40 years ago, Ginger.
I think she says LOL, lots of laughs. I think she's joking with us.
Leash says, instead of becoming like a preacher, does anyone ever become like a rabbi in prison? Yeah, well, I mean, as you can see from that letter we read earlier, I mean, we know he got baptized in the early 70s when he was in the army, right? So this wasn't just something he picked up in jail, was it?
No, he didn't pick it up in jail. He had met a Protestant preacher. I always thought it was before. I always thought David always working the angles. I always thought that he met this Protestant preacher in Kentucky before he went to Korea, but instead he met him after in Kentucky.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, and because there is the assumption that he got Jesus, as they say in Protestant jargon here. He's evangelistic. That's pro-Israel. Just throwing in my 2 cents. Your 2 cents have great value, sweetheart. I have been accused of being an anti-Semite and a Nazi because I've revealed the truth about 500,000 Gazan Palestinians murdered. So anyway,
yeah, I'd be interested to see what David thinks about, you know, the situation in Israel and now Iran. And he's been a bit quiet on his blog lately, hasn't he?
Yeah. And it's I've written some things to people. Thank you, Leash. Thank you.
Have you ever written a letter to Eric, David, Eric?
Not yet. The first person who said to me that I should be the main one writing to him was Gwen Doreen Kubanes. And this was when I first started. And she said, join me on Facebook. I didn't know what social media was. And, yeah, that's true, Ginger. There are plenty of perfectly sane people who play with black magic, give over their free will, and then bad things tend to happen. Yeah, you have to be very, very careful. Do you know there was a prayer? There was a prayer called the Corona Angelica, the angelical crown. That's the Saint Michael the Archangel, and it has the full prayer of defeating Satan. Somebody very, very dear to me started to pray it, and she says, I have to stop this. I have to stop this. It was like a supernatural force going against her and saying this long prayer to Saint Michael the Archangel to defeat Satan, because I've never had these filthy thoughts. I've never had these thoughts coming to me. It's very dangerous. If you can't say a prayer against that, don't say it. Don't say it if you can't take it. I went to Princeton University where there was a seminar headed by a film expert, lovely man, Paul Sidney, I think was his name, Paul Adam Sidney. And Bill Breeze. I met one of the heads of the Ordo Templi Orientis, that famous group, the OTO. Mm-hmm. And they practically were proud about how people who became these magicians in that form went mad. Kenneth Anger, the film,
Magic with a K.
yeah, and also the fellow who won a Grammy Award. I forget his name. Was it Howard Smith or Howard somebody? He did great work with folk music and rural music, but he became a magician. They create these hats, and they're opening up doors to things which are pretty dark, pretty dangerous.
Sex magic.
Well, sex magic, well, that's something else. Sex magic is a distortion of a much misunderstood yoga practice called
Well, yeah.
what is it? What is it? Tantra.
Tantric, yeah.
Tantra is not tantra. Tantra yoga is like the sacrament of matrimony. It's controversial because the Hindus used to eat meat and drink wine. They stopped it when the Muslim moguls invaded. They went one better. They didn't stay away from pork. They did away with all meat. But Tantra yoga, there's nothing wrong with it, but you get these people who consider themselves to be of the Western mysteries, and they invert it, and they think that they can have all of this sex magic, and it's they do have that sex. You know, they claim it's magic. It puts them on a higher level, but it's a perversion, a turning upside down of Tantra yoga.
Well, Steve Sipos mentioned the Ouija board a minute ago, and you know,
Oh yeah.
I may have dabbled with a Ouija board in my time, but you know why? Because they used to sell them in Toys R Us many years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and I actually bought one from Toys R Us.
Mm-hmm.
And much to my friend's delight, when I brought it back over from the US, they'd never seen one.
Oh,
And
really?
yes, there's some very interesting nights I had with that board, and I'll say no more. But I do believe in the merit. I know
Oh,
many
I
people
believe
don't.
I believe these things can happen. You can strengthen the mind. You can strengthen the mind to do certain things, but you had better be careful that you don't go out of your mind.
Well, my mum's spiritual healer, Caroline. This was back in the early '90s. I was doing this. So after doing the Ouija board, some very strange things started happening in my house.
Tell me, tell
Well,
us.
my dog was getting locked in bedrooms with the lights switching on and off. Cupboards were being swung open. Things were getting thrown around. Um, so she had her come in. My mum had burnt the Ouija board at this point. It was gone. But Caroline had told my mother that I'd built a bridge of ghosts over the house. So she said I'd opened a portal
Yeah, that's the word I use. You open a
from
pool.
doing the Ouija board.
It's quite possible. It's quite possible. I don't doubt anything you're saying. I have no doubts about what you're saying. There's somebody who thinks a curse was put on me when I lost my full ability to walk, which I'm regaining now as I lose weight. They said somebody put a curse on you. This woman had survived brain tumors. She spoke very erratically. And a late friend of mine, Silvia Mattacchioni, put me in touch with her. She was in Arizona. And some of these people, you think when they speak, they're almost like children. You think they're daft and out of their minds, but they're not. They speak in a certain manner, especially the women. And she said to me, someone who you think is a friend, someone who you think is a friend, someone who's close to you, someone who's close to you hates you, Eric, hates you, wanted to do this to you, wanted to do this to you, as you married, wanted this to happen to you, and it's
Yeah, I don't regret playing with that Ouija board. I mean,
mm, mm,
it's like you say, it's your perception of it.
that's
You know,
right. I think something happened to me because I let a doctor for the first and only time, a crackpot who wanted to operate on me, and I didn't need the operation, and I never did the operation. He gave me cortisone injections in my right knee, and that's when I felt the discs change in the left part of my back. No, I believe these things can happen. I asked my mother, Teresa Maria. She's a very spiritual person and devoted, but she didn't go back to church. She had reasons, but she was loyal to the church. And I said, how come nobody can read your tarot cards? There were maybe over the years 3 people who couldn't read her cards. And she said to me, I remember where she was standing, she says, because I know where I've been, I know where I am, and I know where I'm going. You know, tarot cards, I love the beauty of them, you know, but to predict something, to have that decide for me what I should do or I shouldn't do, to want to look into another person and what's going to happen with their life. No, I don't want any of that, you know.
Well, I don't use Ouija boards anymore, Eric. I'm now into crystal healing and not Ouija boards. So
Well, that's a very good thing. That's a very good thing.
they're very good for balancing your emotional energy, crystals. I mean,
you know, the magic, there is magic, and God gave us magic. That's our mind. The mind is the magical gift that we have, and it can be very detrimental and it can be very sublime, and it can be in between at all levels. At all levels. It's you know,
and Eric, we appreciate your mind, my friend.
and I appreciate your mind. This was a very succinct, a shorter show than usual. We hope that people walked away with something. I thank Paul Hart and Leash for their intelligent comments. Oh, God, Italian folk magic, and it's all about the saints. Yeah, well, a lot of that goes back to the medieval Christianity. Yes. There is no folk magic in Italy and even Europe was very close with the saints, but it's been distorted by certain people. Very good, Leash. Very good.
Thank you, Steve.
So we shall be back.
Yeah, hopefully people enjoy those letters. I'm going to post them in the community page so you can read them at your disposal.
And we thank the researcher who helped us.
Yes, absolutely. You know who you are.
And as you can tell,
there's a lot of good work behind the scenes.
And as you can tell, I use synonyms and not severe words about crimes or actions taken against people. So I think you'll be happy about that.
Well, I think as we've shown here, I mean, we're in 2026, nearly 50 years since the attacks started, and we're still seeing stuff that's never been seen before.
Well, don't forget, next year is 50 years.
50 years. 50 years since they started this year. July 76.
Oh, yes, that's right. That's right. Yeah. I wonder if people are going to be looking up, take into consideration. I wonder who's going to take into consideration and wonder about what I've hinted about Gietzen, which I believe to be true. And if anybody's going to really be looking into Savino, Joseph Savino Jr., I wonder if somebody right now, when they listen to this later on, it will make them wonder.
Well, watch this space.
Yeah, well, it's a very easy sell. Of course, we know there are many, many Italians, Southerners in organized crime, mafia, Camorra. There are other people also, Russian Jews, Irish, the Black Mafia in Philadelphia, the French in Montreal, and down in Marseille. But, you know, you could also say, hey, thank you, Steve, Donna Lauria. You could also say it's an easy sell to lay a crime upon a guy with an Italian name like that. But I don't know. There's a lot of mystery also about that case. And I say that with sympathy for Brenda, Maureen, Wendy, Savino, Clark. But we'll be back again with another good show, Rena.
Thank you for your time and your mind, Eric.
No, well, I thank you. God bless you. Be well. Be well, my love.
Thank you, chatters. Thank you all.